All right, Leo Cullen, I suppose first things first, we might get the general housekeeping out of the way. You've had internationals coming back over the last few days, I imagine. How are the bodies and I suppose how are the minds as well?
A little bit mixed, yeah. Body-wise, like it's such an intense tournament, so like there's guys who've come back in various different shapes. So it's just we're just trying to make guy assessments on guys case by case basis. In terms of the minds, yeah, I think most guys, they're keen to get back involved now at this stage. Had a couple of weeks off. And yeah, it's always a challenge this period, like if you come off, like the guys haven't come through a pre-season with us, so we have to assume that they know nothing at this point in time. So just trying to get some information into them about what we've been doing, how the group have been going, etc., etc. And then just trying to integrate them, not all at the same time. So a couple of guys will feature this week. Some guys might drop in the following week. And just depending really on how they've come through training. So we're just trying to make assessments on them and try and do what's best for the group.
And are you expecting everyone will be fit and available by the time the first round of the Heineken Champions Cup comes around?
Well, Jack Cohen obviously one that won't be. So, but the rest of the guys seem to be coming through okay. But yeah, we will continue to monitor them over the following or the next couple of days. A couple of them will be a little bit tight, I'd say. But generally speaking, they've come back in good shape.
It's obviously a very tricky way the way the calendar falls in a World Cup year, and you would have probably experienced that particularly tough in your first season. This time, does it feel strange even as well this time 4 years ago?
Yeah, well, it's... Yeah, there's lots of things that we would look back on from that period. It's a little bit different in terms of, at least, we're a bit more of there's a bit more stability, I guess, behind the scenes. If you think starting off, it was a tricky period where there was lots of change from the previous season in terms of the management and backroom teams. So ideally we'd like to think we're in a bit more of a stable position than we were then. For the players coming back in, I think for the most part they've been excited about getting back. It is always a challenging period because normally you have this build into Europe where you have your pre-season Pro 14 games, whereas we've had that bit going on in the background. We've players that are sort of dropping in, and they've trying to get up to speed quite quickly. So the fact that you have four Champions Cup games in the first 5 rounds. So that we've a game against Glasgow in between. So, it's trying to maximise every point that we can and see where we go. We saw 4 years ago when you lose your first game at home, it has a very negative effect in terms of the cycle. Then we lose a tight game away against Bath in round 2 and we were up against Toulon then.
It's your tournament done already, isn't it?
It just made life very, very difficult for ourselves. So for us, we need to try and maximise every point we can in the first game and see where we sit after that, and then we'll be off to Lyon in round 2 and try and maximise every point we get over there. And there's a little bit of a break, not much of a break. 1 week we're off in Glasgow then, who are in our conference in the Pro 14. So and then we've Northampton back to back, and they're a team. Obviously, we've a strong tradition in the tournament, and we've had plenty of good battles with them over the years, with mixed success. But that's the great part about the tournament. So there's it throws up many different variables.
I imagine though overall so far at this stage into the season, you're quite pleased with the way things have gone. Obviously, Leinster are the team that probably take the brunt of the damage when it comes to losing players for international breaks, but to have won 5 out of 5 games, 4 of those with a bonus point as well, a lot of young players putting down a claim, really. I think it must be a very exciting. It must have been a very exciting period.
We see it as a positive anytime guys get called up for international honours. Whereas we just get the opportunity to see somebody else in the team, and some of the young guys are working really hard. I think there's a lot of work that goes into getting guys to that level. So all those bits behind the scenes is usually important. And as you say, it's been a reasonably positive block for us. It hasn't been perfect, but in terms of outcome, getting 5 wins has been positive. Some of the performance haven't always been fantastic, but we're managing to get the job done, which is pleasing. This week against Connacht, totally different challenge. who are going very well themselves. So it's been a challenging place for us to go in recent times, the sports grounds. So we need to make sure we are in the right frame of mind when we go down there on Friday, which then that leads into the following week. So we'll have a couple of guys back this week, and they get an opportunity to see how they go, and we'll make some assessments then ahead of next week.
How big an opportunity is that little period when guys are away for extended spells in the international team for younger guys to maybe establish themselves as more of a voice, not even just out on the pitch with their performances, but as a voice in the changing room, and kind of get a bit more comfortable there? There's probably less pressure, I imagine, when there are so many high profile guys away.
It's great. Like, the period's been really good for us, in terms of coaches and our interaction, senior coaches' interaction with all the academy players. Because with X amount of players gone, it leaves a little bit more space in the building. When everyone draws back in, it's a bit more claustrophobic. Which is good. We want to have a very competitive environment, but the fact that so many players have been away, as I said, we only see it as a positive, because we get to spend more time with some of the younger players, and they become a little bit more comfortable with systems and the knowledge of what we're actually trying to do on the field. And they've had some great training exposure during that time as well. So, it's been a good period for the group. Hopefully it'll serve us well down the line. This period that we're in at the moment is always a challenge, because you have to assume that guys come back in know nothing, because they've been out of the squad for quite a period now. So we need to try and accelerate their learning process. How that goes, we'll wait and see. Everyone's saying the right things, but we need to see how it transfers onto the field now. It'd be a good challenge for us.
One of those younger players, I'd like to mention, probably Ronan Kelleher, has started the season brilliantly. Is he someone that he's a perfect example of those guys that has just taken the opportunity of players being away?
That's what we want for all the guys. We want all the players. Ronan had a little bit of exposure of playing in the senior team last year, and then he played a lot with Lansdowne last year as well. And that, for a lot of the younger players, that's important as well, so that they go back to the clubs and they're playing well for their clubs. There's no point them going back to their clubs and thinking that they're the be all and end all, and like they don't turn up for their clubs. We want those guys to perform well for their clubs as well. So Ronan did that well, the bits that we saw last year. He's got himself into good shape into this pre-season, leading into the season, and he's taken some of his chances well, and hence he's featured on a few different days. But ultimately, that's what we want for all the young guys, so they get their bits of exposure, whether that's at training or in games, and then whether they have that interaction and going back and forth to the clubs as well. It's not rocket science, really, is it? But that's the model that we're after.
I must ask as well, of course, then about Saracens, which has dominated rugby over the last couple of days. Their 35-point penalty and £5 million fine for breaking the Premiership salary cap. Having been beaten by them in a final in the tournament last year, do you look back with a little bit of frustration maybe about that possibly if they hadn't been breaking a Premiership salary cap, they mightn't have been in a position squad-wise to go where they did?
I don't look at it like that at all. No, it's like the leagues have different rules that they operate by, and that's one of the great things in many ways. If you look back 4 years ago, everyone was asking the Pro 12 teams at the time, or Pro 14 as we are now, do we have any chance of competing against the top French teams and top English teams? And we were asking ourselves that question. We had to probably tweak what we're doing, quite considerably, how we go about things. That's, in many ways, that's the beauty of competition. Like, if you're an English club, you'd have a different viewpoint, because they're all supposed to be competing under a set of rules, and obviously Saracens have not been competing under those set of rules. So if I was an English club, I would be more annoyed than we are, because it doesn't affect us in the same way. We want to pit ourselves against the best in Europe and what the best clubs have to offer. So it doesn't really affect us, in the same regard. Obviously, you'd have a different set of, you have a different viewpoint if you're an English team competing against them week to week. So, it is what it is. We're just more worried about ourselves than we are other teams.
Leo, thanks a million for speaking to us, and very best of luck.